Hello and welcome back. This time it's going to be all about how to build your own ROV controller box. Now all you basically need is a 12-volt battery, a double pole, double throw switch like this one, and some wire. Now the way these double pole, double throw switches work is as follows. You have the idle position just like this one saying off, and then by turning the lever like this you activate this side, and if you turn it back the other way, you activate this side. This gives you the option of operating your power thruster either forward or backward. And here's how you wire it. From the battery, you take the plus and minus pole and attach it to the lower part of your switch. Then you go to the other side and cross them over. Plus from the right to the left side and minus from the left side to the right side. Then the cable that goes to your tether is attached to the middle one. And this way, the power that's going on one side will be selected to the outgoing pole, going to the tether. And if you want to go to the other direction, it's just going to go the other way. And it's easy as that. You do that 3 times with each controller that you want, and you're set. That's everything you have to know about building your own do-it-yourself ROV controller box. And I'm going to show you a few more projects which I came up with so far. So let's talk about ROV controllers. This is my first design here. It's just a little box with a little placement for a mobile phone in order to keep track of what your endoscope is showing you. Forward and backwards, thrusting up and down, plug for the tether, and also the receiving box for the endoscope. From the inside it's pretty much plundered out because anything that was useful made it to the next design. But in order to get started, this was pretty simple. Very cheap controllers, not very well together here. I mean, these wires here were extremely tiny and extremely thin, and a lot of power got lost on the way there. So, and also the soldering here was quite a handful. But in order just to make the entire system work and to get your first positive experiences, it was well, it was adequate. However, in order to make it a little more fun, now this is much better. There. As mentioned in my last video, 12-volt power source. Oops, here we go. Yeah. And these are the controllers to thrusting forward and backward, up and down, lighting system, and also for the speedometer and regulating the intake power for all of your controllers. And let's take a look behind the scenes here, how this whole system works. Let's turn that off just to be safe. Boom! Oh my gosh, you might say. Like an electrician's nightmare probably, but what the heck. Now what you always want to keep in mind is using very good extensions and power clippings here. You can see here, for example, I don't know what these are called in English, to be honest, but in order to spread your power all around all of the different systems, you need these little crimping claws right here, and that way not so much power gets lost. We got different power intakes here from the cable here, for example, spread them around to all the different controllers. Here into speedometer, your intake and your output, and from there it's spread around to all of your different controllers. And here's the CAT breakout in order to direct it to your CAT 6 cable. However, using this is not the most convenient way of controlling your ROV, because doing this all the time is a little difficult in terms of precision. Because sometimes you just take a little right, a little to the left, and so forth. And if you have poor visibility from your endoscope, for example, it's not always easy in order to keep your ROV on track. So with the help of home-built ROVs, this came to be. Joystick. And, hold on, let's take a look at the power here. Joystick, light switch, a light switch, and to dive and to get up again. And here's what it looks like from the inside. Of course, a horrible job, I know. And here's the thing, how this whole system works. This whole joystick design is basically doing the same thing as I'm doing here. Let's say I want to go forward like this. I press the joystick down and you see these two lights illuminating because that's the left engine is getting power and the right engine is getting power. To do the same thing backwards, it is as if I'm doing this, the switch is turned backwards. These relays are interconnected with each other. Let's make that a little more visible here for the diving up and down. This regulates the power plus minus, and this one minus and plus. And if you press both of them together, they both extinguish one another, because this way no power is flowing whatsoever, so you cannot short circuit them. It is a little complicated of getting all of this cable salad to work, and the only way really to do this successfully is to follow precisely the instructions that they give you on home-built ROVs. Otherwise I wouldn't have not been able to do it. You got all these, you got 8 different claws here for each and every little relay. And of course I did make mistakes. However, it was much easier to comply with these instructions from home-built ROVs once I sort of understood how these relays actually work. And since I'm completely ignorant to electronics and such, it took me a while to understand how these relays actually work. So let me try to give you a few pointers here of how these relays work and what they actually do. So let's take a look here. Here on the left side you see the joystick in the off position. You're not touching it, and the switch at the joystick is not conducting any power. Now the power is running from the joystick to the first 2 connectors here on the top part of the relay, and they control the, let's call it the engine of the relay. They turn it on and off. Now the next 2 pins here are also connected to the 12-volt power supply. That's your intake. That's where the power goes in. Now in this off position, the first exit here, exit number 1, as I'm sure there is a more technical term for that, but bear with me here. That's where the power goes, and the other one is setting idle. Let's take a look at that from the side. It makes it a little more visible of what I'm talking about here. Once again, joystick in the off position, no power is running through, and so the engine inside the relay is turned off, and therefore you can see it there, that little lever is stuck to the right. I exaggerated there a little with this red arc, and the power is exiting through the exit number 1. In this case it's feeding the next relay, which I was just showing you, but those are the instructions that you're getting from the wiring diagram from home-built ROVs. Now if you jiggle the handle, put it into the on position on the joystick, the power is going into the engine of the relay. So that means the power goes in, just like it was before, but now exit 2 is activated. So let's take a look at that from the side again. Same deal, the joystick is on, and so is the relay. Power goes in, and the arc is being bended to the left, and therefore exiting at number 2. So in other words, if you're having trouble finding any weak spots, or if you hooked your joystick system, everything's up, but it's not performing quite right, this way you sort of have an orientation on what is supposed to be doing what. Believe me, it was not easy, but I was very, very thankful for this wiring system. And with it, yeah, it actually got it to work. So if I can help you with that, But let's get a little more into what the wiring at the joystick looks like. Getting all of this wired in the right way was kind of tricky. And also, if you look here very closely, you see these brackets here, which are connected to the actual action of the single pole, single throw switch. They had a little too much, how do you say, a little too much empty space in order, you really had to press them far down in order to press the button. And so I put a little bit of tape around them with a little piece of wood inside here in order to decrease the leniency of this whole of the joystick. Otherwise I really would have had to press both of them down in order to get both engines running at the same time. Either way it would have just been one engine at a time, and this way the response is much faster. Once again here on the bottom, up and down, and these once again are for forward and backwards. Then also for the light switch here, same deal as here. This one right here. And also, in order to keep it in a nifty little box, carrying harness here. Also for the velocity, for the actual power for the ROV. And here's once again the case for the endoscope Wi-Fi receiver. It's the intake for the cable, power intake, and that's all there is to it. Now these two hooks here are to hook up a shoulder harness. And the power intake, or the power supply itself, can be carried in a little bag that you put on yourself. Yeah, and this way makes it a lot easier. Going left, going right, going backwards, forwards. And beautiful part is this whole system. I mean, this joystick and also the buttons was only like $25 on Amazon. And these switches are also just a few euros or dollars, and it's really, really cheap. Probably the hardest part was to get a good case in order to make home for all of these adjustments. This, once again, both of these cases were actually, former decorative or makeup cases of my wife, as you can see here with the mirror. But priorities have to be set, ladies and gentlemen. Priorities have to be set. Therefore, if I needs, I keeps. Let me give you a few more impressions of what you can see here. Another intake power source here. The same thing right here with the 12-volt power plug. USB charging device. 6.3 amp fuse. Now this is really cool, this little slope right here. Kind of like a leading rail for the cat tether. And here a couple of spare fuses. I never blew a single one. And here also the hook for the retaining system for the rope coming in from the tether. And this casing right here, the iPad can be placed in order to monitor your ROV. This is again for the Wi-Fi system for the endoscope. Kind of neat with all the flashing lights, of course. Shiny stuff at its best. And then also a few more insights, a few more impressions here. Now, these are really cool, really comfortable to press even. I probably should have closed it up a little better here, but yeah, it works, and I don't plan on throwing it into the water or anything. It doesn't have to be watertight or so. Also, the fuse is inside in this case. Didn't want to have it outside and keep as much of the power or of the electricity inside of the wiring. Now you might wonder where the monitoring station is for the endoscope, and you can actually slip a little piece of it's kind of like a foam board into the harness here and lean your mobile or whatever device just against it, and it's a rather good fit with these shoulder strap harnesses here. And it's probably a system that can still be improved, but as always with any hobby, it's a work in progress. And I'm also kind of thinking maybe I should get myself a better endoscope, probably an actual fishing cam or so, just to increase the quality of what you can see while you're underwater. But I'm not sure yet, because I've already invested a lot of money into this whole stuff here, but not too much money. So we'll see what the future holds. Now let's talk about the streamline adjustments here, these attachments. Since I changed from the small brushless motors to these bilge pumps with 350 gallons per hour from Seaflow, I was a little unhappy with this flat surface, because even though it's not a big resistance, it is still some resistance. And also in terms of buoyancy and so forth, I thought maybe we could do a little something extra. And so a friend of mine said, well, that just in order to use the 3D printer that we have at work from time to time, I could use it and just come up with a design. And these are pretty much pre-existent in any 3D printer database, with a few adjustments, obviously. And so this cone-shaped body, it's kind of hollow, so I had to drill a little hole in it and fill it up with epoxy, and also attach a little bit of weight, and also have the epoxy fill it up a little on the top in order to keep it from creating too much buoyancy, because that could be a real problem. And yeah, a little paint job, and to make it a little more interesting. This is actual paint here, since this is all just yellow painting foil. And I mean, it's a perfect snug fit here, the surrounding, and just these little lines here. When I first tried them on, I was like, no way. I mean, this was absolute precision, fit perfectly. But after a while, for some reason, they became a little loose. I don't know if it was for the ring here that came a little loose, or maybe they were suffering from abrasion or something, I don't know. So I put on these little Velcro connecting dots here, and that way they stand perfectly in shape and also in position. On this side as well. Here with Snoopy. Yeah. And if they should come loose for whatever reason, they still have a little bit of, whoa, what's this? A little bit of positive buoyancy. I haven't seen this one here. Ah, what the heck, I'll just flip it over. Yeah, makes it look a little sharper. I'm not quite sure if it makes a real change in energy efficiency, but well, minor adjustment. It was kind of fun coming up with that with the 3D printer and everything, watching it come from theory into actual practice. But it's always fun to, test these new things. Now you may have also noticed one little change here, the propeller housing here on top. I highly recommend doing something like this, because ever so often you run into some debris, or if you're submerged under a boat or something, there's always a rail or something sticking out. And just to have any debris or anything, any obstruction, stay clear from this propeller. That is something that I can really recommend in order to keep the propeller safe, and also the entire system from tangling up or whatever. Also, which is quite nice, which you probably could already see at the last video, is this. Since it's shielded to the surface upwards, you can always spot it by looking down. Because sometimes you wonder, where's my ROV? How deep is it? And as long as you see the light shining up, of course, it's the thing that you really need. But, since I needed a third light in order to split up the power from the two front beams here. Oh, that looked kind of cool, actually. Ooh, new camera and everything. Wow, nice. I gotta do that more often. And here, the floor lighting with all the extra weights. Yes. I gotta tell you, this was so much fun building this thing. Always coming up with new ideas and so forth. I'm pretty much at the point where I'm not quite sure if I can make any new extensions, but as I just said, maybe a new endoscope here an actual fishing camera or something like that, which has a little more resolution and a better picture, and also a better camera system and everything. That's one improvement that is still out there for discussion. And other than that, nifty. Quite a bad boy. Once again, it's always fun to answer you guys' questions. I mean, it's always nice to have people out there who are taking interest in this, and if I can, you know, help any of you out with any further questions or whatever, it's always quite rewarding. So don't be shy. Just ask away whatever you want to know, and I'll be sure to answer. Thanks.